Hello folks, and welcome to Linux for Seniors. In today's video I'm going to be talking about a basic video. It has to do with copying files and folders using copy, cut, and paste kind of methods over to USB sticks. I'm going to show you lots of little tips that you can do with your keyboard and mouse, computer mouse. This video is going to be more than 2 minutes. All of my videos on my new YouTube channel, Linux for Seniors, is more than 2 minutes. All of my videos have chapters or timelines on them. Now, what is Linux for Seniors? Well, my project I started in middle of February, and I'm already up to 60 videos, is all about making videos that are less technical jargon. I am a senior myself, and there are plenty of seniors or people of age that have quite a few computer skills out there. Very knowledgeable folks. And there's also brand new seniors that are just retiring, starting to use computers. And your younger folks are starting to use Linux, and maybe you need some help and wanting to know how to do basic stuff or even more advanced stuff. I have a little bit of everything. So that's why I'm making my videos and calling it the Linux for Seniors. So if you're not a senior, that's not the target audience, you may benefit from just watching these kind of videos, because what I'm going to talk about is really Linux for any age. This is for new users of Linux Mint 21.1 Cinnamon. I do encourage that you subscribe. Again, my videos are over 2 minutes, but they all have timelines. And you can read in the About section and also my Community tab to do some easy navigation. I'll give you some navigation tips there if you like. More importantly, I am going to say welcome, and hopefully you will think about the subscription. If not, look me up. So let's close that screen and talk about the file manager today. So the file manager for Linux Mint is Nemo. If you're not too familiar with this, because this is a basic video, then continue watching. We're going to deal with cutting and pasting, only using one device today, USB stick. What is a device? A device is a internal hard drive, external hard drive, USB stick, or another name is thumb drive. So I start with my home folder, and we got our user Bob. It's just a fictitious name. You can resize these icons using my method, and I'll show you a bunch of little tips about this moving forward. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way. Grab a hold of this thing down here and drag that back and forth. You can also go to the View menu and click in and out. You can also hold down the Control key and hit plus to make it bigger, or you can use it my way. Now, the reason I like to do it this way, because I can make these resized on the fly. Holding my right hand on my computer mouse with my scroll wheel, and my left hand that is resting near my keyboard toward the bottom left corner, I hold down my Control key while scrolling with my computer mouse to resize. This comes in handy in a lot of things. Let's open up the document folder and talk about simple document copy and paste first. Then I'll talk about some more advanced features. Or should I say just basic copying and pasting features. Before I do anything with this file manager, I wanted to bring some things to your attention, because some people like to experiment. So if you went to the edit box and preferences and changed the behavior, not yours, the behavior of the file manager from double to single click, some of these functions I'm about to show you does not work. This is default with Linux Mint. Double click on items. What is an item? An item is a file or a folder. While I'm in here, I turned another tool on right here. It's called Show Thumbnails. It's just one of my preference tools. So I put that up there. If I turn that tool on and off, you'll see why. Okay, those are thumbnails. They also come in handy for photos. If you don't have that tool, your only option is to go to View and click, because there's no keyboard equivalent. Let's move on. Since I talked about the behavior of this file manager as double click, let me perform that action for you. I'm going to click on that once and hit my spacebar on my keyboard to give a preview of that PDF, portable document file. It's a manual of a printer. I'm going to click the next file over, a text. Preview, hitting the spacebar. Just says test 1, 2, 3. I'm not even using the close button, as you can see. I'm just clicking the I'm clicking the spacebar, not clicking but pushing the spacebar on my keyboard. So let's click that and right click and do the first basic thing, and we're going to continue from there. So basically I'm going to right click on the file and copy. I could have also used cut. There's also a cut in here. I could also move it to the trash and delete it. So I'm also going to talk about the keyboard equivalent or the menu equivalent. Under edit, you also have Control X, Control Charlie, and Control Victor, and Control Alpha or Control A. The Control A just does a selection of all, or you can click it also. You can also click this. How you use this if you've never used keyboard shortcuts, if you are to hold down your Control key while this file is highlighted, hold down your Control key and hit C or Charlie, it'll make a copy of that. And then you send it somewhere else or click somewhere else and you hit Control V for Victor, for paste. These are very common also in Microsoft Windows. All right, with that said, I'm going to continue. So right click, copy, look for the USB stick, right click and paste. Very simple command. I could also make this really small and click the documents and make these really big. And then go back to the USB stick and it's still small and this is still big. The windows are independently resized. Again, using my little trick, it looks like I'm magically pulling that number, and you'll probably find that that's rather easily done. Holding down your Control key while scrolling with your computer mouse to resize. So let's do the same thing with the USB stick. It's too tiny, and I will, there's two ways to select this. I can click on it. I could also use Control A if I have multiple files, but I'm just going to click on that and then hit delete on my keyboard. It goes to the trash. I don't know what I got in that trash. I got a single file. Let's put a couple more in here in a second. So I'm going to go back to documents and let's talk about multi-selecting files to throw into that USB stick. So I could click on that, and if I wanted that one, once I click the other one, it deselects that one. That's not what you want. So I'm going to click that again. This time I'm going to take my left hand and hold down on that Control key. While still depressed, I can click that file. Then I can skip over this one while still holding the Control key and click that and that. Now I have 4 items selected. 4 files, well, four items. One is a folder. I can right click on any one of these blue things. Right click and hit copy and USB stick and paste. I'll resize that. All right, so I'm going to leave them highlighted, and while they're still highlighted, I'm going to hit the delete key to throw them in my trash. So while I'm in the trash, I might as well just get this over with, and then we'll continue. You can do 1 or more items. So if I wanted to return that folder, I would hit restore or right click on the folder and hit restore. And you can also multi-select by drawing a box. I'll talk about this feature in a second. And hit restore. And that's all I'm going to talk about as far as the trash can is concerned today. So I think most people can figure that one out. But anyways, we'll continue. So now that you saw that I can click on this, hold the Control key, multi-select, or I could practice this. I'm grabbing my mouse. I'm going to use the left clicker button on the top of my mouse to click and drag. Click and drag. I can select all and back this up. If I had a second row of files, I can continue. I'm going to release that button. Then I'm going to hold down the Control key and uncheck that keyboard shortcuts. And now that becomes just 4 files, and release the Control key for me to copy. Following this so far, right click on the screen, paste. So far so good, hopefully. Remember, there's a timeline here. You can always back this up. So let's go back into documents, and now I'm going to show you a different method of doing things. And by the way, you can also come in on the side and click like this to multi-select. You have a couple of different ways to look at the screen. You have an extra pane. The keyboard equivalent is F3. You also, in the file menu, have Tab and New Window. My preferred one is New Window, but I'm going to show that one last. I'll start with New Tab. It makes a tab of both of these that are the same. But in this one, I'm going to click USB stick. This is now Documents. That's now USB stick. You can see the address bar up here. Some people may like this feature. I particularly don't care for it, but some people may like that. So you would Right click on the file and copy and click the USB stick and paste. Another way of doing this is I'm going to go to Documents, go to F3 Extra Pane. It makes identical panes, but in this one, I want you to notice that there's a color change in here. There's a bar in the center. Okay, I'm going to click USB stick. It even tells me the free space down here, by the way, when I'm doing this. 1.6 terabyte on this side, 15.5 gigabytes on the USB stick. Yeah, I got a fairly large drive. Anyways, Bob's Documents, USB stick. You want to toggle the full address. It's Media Bob USB stick. And this one is Home Folder, Bob's Home Folder Documents. Okay? Not that that's important, but I just wanted to see the change here. And you can see that flipping. Okay, got that so far? What I'm going to do is drag and drop. Now that file is over here in the USB stick. And again, I can toggle that off and it looks kind of weird, doesn't it? Yeah. That was to show thumbnails. So I can do this multiple also. Is that confusing? This is still USB stick. If I turn off the F3 would be extra pane. The files are still here, okay? I'm just making copies to here using F3. That's all I'm doing here. USB stick and Documents. All right, so I could switch this up too. Let's say I just dumped some files in here and I wanted to pick some other, well, wallpaper maybe, from my other folders and put it into the USB stick. Well, then I'm just going to drop down to Pictures, Wallpaper. And I'll resize these. I got some strange wallpaper. I'm hitting the space bar, folks, just to get a preview. And I'll do the mushroom, space bar, and close. If I hit the space bar and then move my mouse, there's a resizer right here and you get full screen. Space bar to close. You can do this all day long. You can also resize these. You can click on any of these and hit the space bar and it'll tell you what they are. That's kind of ridiculous, but anyways, just wanted to let you see that you can. Now, you see the size of this scroll bar? If you are wanting to have larger scroll bars, then hit subscribe. I do have some other videos on how to make these larger. The best clue that you have as a new subscriber is to go into my community tab and read some of the tips that I have in there for navigating, looking for videos on my YouTube site. Because my previous YouTube site had over 450 videos and a lot of people didn't know how to find things. But the tips on the navigation in there is a hint on how to search for things rather easily if you're using a standard web browser. Let me continue now and not talk about this bar anymore. So if I wanted a single file from my wallpaper to the USB stick, I could just drag this weird looking guy here over to here. If I wanted to multi-select, I'm going to make them smaller. I could either start at the top and drag a bar up or down, it doesn't really matter. I could also do it the old-fashioned way. I can click that, hold down the control key, click, click, and click, and then drag these over. I'm still just copying from my internal folders to the USB stick. Anytime you don't perform any other keyboard command, by highlighting these and dragging them over using nothing else but your mouse, it is a copy process. And it can go both ways. Both ways. Not only one direction, but the other direction also. So basically I'm going to click the, I meant to leave that in USB stick, click in here and downloads. There's currently nothing here. So if I wanted a copy of this, you just brought this wallpaper over from your Microsoft machine, whatever it might be, or maybe Mac. And I wanted this in Linux Mint. I would just drag it, click and drag and dump it in here. This is going to downloads. Or I could have put it in pictures. Or I could have put it in documents, but I'm just going to throw it in downloads for now. All I did was make a copy from the USB stick into my download folder. That's all I'm doing here. Okay. So, delete. USB stick, downloads. All right, now I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to go documents, or should I put documents on this side? Yeah, I'll do it from this side. And then this over here, I'll do downloads. So let's take a look at the address bar. This right here is Bob's Documents, and this one is Bob's Downloads folder. When you drag files from here to here, because I'm dragging them from documents to downloads, they will move the file. Cut and paste if you want to think about it that way. So click across like that. Can you do multiples? Sure. If I drag a box around those 4 items and I decide not to use all 4, I can still hold the control key and deselect that one and then transfer those over. If your intent was not to move the file, but to copy the file, then I would suggest leaving them highlighted and right-clicking and doing the copy thing. So basically highlight them first and copy. Okay, so let me actually do this again. I'm going to move them all over. Okay, and if my intent was to literally go from one folder to another and I didn't want to leave the originals, I'm sorry, if I wanted to leave the originals, yes, I apologize. If you wanted to leave the copies or make a copy of these things to put in another folder is a better term to say this, is to highlight these guys, right click and copy, click in here and then hit paste. That makes a copy of these. Similar to me dragging files from my internal folders into a device, in this case USB stick. Hopefully that was clear. In general, when you are dragging files in your internal folders, we're still dealing with Bob downloads and Bob's documents. When you're dragging multiples or singles, it doesn't matter. You're just moving the files. That's all you're doing here. All right, now I'm going to turn off this feature. So extra pane, I could use F3 also. So let me use F3, 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 F3. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to resize this box. And actually I'll just grab the corner. Easier maybe. And then I'll create another window. And I'll just grab this manually and do this. So it doesn't matter the size of the boxes. Make this slightly wider. What you're doing is you're making 2 boxes or 2 windows. One I'm going to call USB stick and the other one I'm going to call something else. So if you have files on your USB stick and you need to move it into your system from the USB stick, it's as simple as that. Just making a copy of them. That's all this is doing. You can do multiples. Okay, all I'm doing is clicking and dragging because I'm going from a device into my folders. The natural process without me doing any other keyboard functions is highlighting these, drag them over. It's making a copy. All right, so if I were to get rid of these, again, I'm always putting stuff in the trash, right? So if I wanted to physically remove them off my USB stick, I'll just grab all the images. Right click, cut, click, and paste. Now I pulled them off the USB stick, but now I changed my mind. You can do this rather quickly. Just drag them back and it'll make a copy. What just happened here? Well, first I cut and pasted them, but then I changed my mind and I didn't right click and hit cut. All I did was leave them highlighted and drag them back because it made a copy of these over to here because I'm dragging stuff across, makes a copy. Hopefully that was clear. One more time. You do a cut and paste. It removes them from here. Whatever folder you're in, it doesn't matter. And then you highlight the same and you drag them over. It's making a copy because I'm not doing anything special like cutting. I'm just dragging them. That's all. You can do this with any file. I can even start in here if I like. If I didn't want the photo, I can just hold my control key and deselect that and grab a hold of these 3. Just manipulating files, but it's a lot easier to do if you know all these little tricks on how to do this rather quickly. Okay, I'm going to delete all those again. I'm really filling that trash can up. So we can do the same thing with photos. We can do this with files. It doesn't really matter. You can resize these independently. Just keep in mind the little tip, if you're working with small little guys like this, you can always hit the space bar to find out what the bigger version of that is. You know, whatever you're working with. I think this is one of my photos. Yeah, so let me make it bigger for you. It's one of the waterfalls close by. Let me right click on this image and see what looks like I took it in 21 with an iPhone. So anyways, so even if you've got your own photos, let's say the photo was came off of a different computer, for instance, then if I had a copy of it in here, of course it's going to complain, as long as I could just change the file name to something different. Or more importantly, I can just move it onto a different folder and then deal with it internally. I can even see the size of the frame, but I'm going to reduce that to something like that. And you can see more or less information as you bring these boxes up. Now you can see the name, the size, and basically when the thing was edited or possibly even taken. Sometimes if you edit things, it changes that bottom line down there. But in general, you got the name and what file size is. And then of course you can make it dinky. Click on that and hit the space bar to get a bigger picture, or full size screen, and space bar to close. All right, hopefully you're enjoying some of these tips. Anyways, folks, there's many ways you can do this. So recap is you can use the extra pane, F3. You could use the new tab. Not my preferred way, but some people may like it. And new window, my preferred way of dragging stuff across. And one more time with the rules, if you're just doing straight dragging without any other keyboard commands, because there is another way of doing it, but I'm not going to confuse you. But if you just keep it simple, you're going from USB stick to your internal folders. When you drag and drop, it is a copy process. If you go from two windows with your internal folders, you are moving the file. Even if you do weird stuff like this, this will go on my desktop now. And I'll move it back. And where did that thing originally come from? My document folder. So I can go here, and I could also go here and here. All I'm doing is moving files around. Copy, paste, and moves. There's a lot of things you can do in here. So that is your folder. That is your desktop. Right click, customize, settings. Some folks prefer icons on their desktops. I do not. These are system icons. You can't delete them. There's no delete command. Do you see this is still empty? I'm going to throw that image in there from downloads. The image is right here now. Spacebar to view that. Spacebar to close. This is my desktop folder. This is not showing up in that folder because these are system icons. And if you try to delete something like this using multi-select, this will not delete. I'm hitting the delete. Nothing. I can delete it individually though, but these I can't delete. But I can turn them off. There's two ways of doing this. You can turn them off here, or you can go to your panel bar, right click, system settings, or your Mint menu, system settings, it doesn't matter. Click the desktop and activate your icons here, or deactivate them. I prefer none. This is not my standard wallpaper when I run Linux Mint. I have wallpapers of my children and places I've been in the world. And you can too. You can even set that as wallpaper if you like. Okay, so I'm going to move that off my desktop back into downloads. That's where it was, and it'll disappear here. I can just do it from here. I'll let you see that. Just manipulating files, folks. Okay, I think I've shown you enough steps in here. Let's talk about this USB stick thing. Go in your Mint menu. Normally you don't have, obviously, Linux for Seniors here. I just put that as text. USB. You will find that tool already installed. Your stick formatter is used to not only clean up USB sticks, but also changing the way it formats. So I'm going to click that. Hopefully most folks know what a USB 2 and 3s are. Generally USB 3s are supposed to be faster, but in general USB sticks are slower than hard drives. This is just the dev STD is just how the Linux Mint is handling the identification of that device. So the label you can change yourself, and if you decide to do that, I would just use simple labels. But I wanted to point to the most important thing about this box, which is that one right there. FAT32, File Allocation Table, compatible everywhere. Extension 4 is on the bottom, not compatible everywhere. So if you use extension 4, for instance, and you format your USB stick, and then you put your wallpapers or other files, and you stick it on a Microsoft machine and expect to pull the files off, guess what? It's not going to read it. So you want to stick with something that Windows can read. FAT32 is one of them. NTFS is another. NT file system. But more importantly, FAT32 is all I wanted to make mention of. That's the most common one to format your USB stick. On that note, folks, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and subscribe and take a look at my other ones. And thank you for watching.